Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Lindsay. You know, Lindsay, don't worry, they will let you come back once in a while. It's great. Good morning, everyone. So good to see you all. Hello. So great to be. What a wonderful, wonderful weekend here at the church. How many people were here for the installation on Friday? What a wonderful, amazing day. And congratulations, Seal Beach Center for Spiritual Living. Congratulations, Michael and Nicole. It just warmed my heart. And so thankful to get to be here. And thank you, Michael and Nicole, so much for letting me come and visit and come home and be with my family here and get some good energy for everything that we have going on in Colorado. I'm so grateful and such a high honor to get to speak on such a high holy day. Next to Oscar Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday is one of the most important holidays in our Center for Spiritual Living tradition. Being open at the top and being so inclusive of other faiths, it allows us the opportunity to be complete and utter fundamentalists about our sports teams, which is great. And it does weigh heavy on my heart, but it's kind of freeing to say that Patriots fans can just go to hell, I'm just kidding. As some of these players get older, Tom Brady in particular, we're like the same age, so I just go get those kids, get them. So whoever your chosen icon or idol, please enjoy them immensely and enjoy the game. It's so good to be here, and of all the stuff that's been going on in my life, surely the greatest blessing has been getting to, with my wife, have a beautiful baby girl named Nancy June, who's here today. Do we want to do the Lion King thing? She's there. There she is, right over there, everybody. And it wasn't just an honor to be a part of bringing Nancy June in the world, but to be a part of it with our son Gavin. And April is just the most incredible mom. She's just so patient. We got married here, and we put qualities on rocks, and mine was joy, and yours was patience. And a little over 2 years in marriage has taught me that yes, one part of marriage is compatibility, but the other is one's ability to deal with the other person's crazy. And I know you don't see it that often, honey, but I so appreciate how you work with my crazy. And I love you so much. And you were so patient until the day that your water broke, would be how I would see it. And it leads me to the title of the message today, which is Giving Birth to Divine Ideas. Giving birth to divine ideas. And that's what April did, and gave birth to this incredible divine idea. And watching April go through the birthing process, it reminded me a lot about what our founder, Ernest Holmes, teaches about the creative process, how things come to be. And he says that you don't have to know how it works to know that it works. You don't have to know how the seed becomes a plant to know that it does. You don't have to know how the electricity turns the lights on to know that it does. You don't have to know how we attract one another into our lives and manifest stuff from our vision boards to know that it works. And the key is actually not to get too lost in the how, but to revel in the why. In Leaves of Grass, Walt Whitman talks about a boy who picks up a handful of grass and looks to Walt and says, "What is this?" And Whitman replies, "Honestly, I have no idea what it is." And isn't that how we really open to living life in awe? When we take away the names and our pretending to know all the processes, to really bask in the awe and the sacred miracle of life. And that's what a divine idea really is. It's the recognition of the miracle of life coming to be in our consciousness, and for us to be a part of it too. We're a part of that. And so I ask you this morning, do you believe in a divine idea for your life? Do you believe that there is a divine idea for your life, a divine idea for your prosperity, a divine idea for your relationships, a divine idea for your career, a divine idea for your way of being, and maybe it's not even an external thing, maybe it's an internal experience. I love what the great poet Mary Oliver said. She passed away a couple weeks ago and shared this just a couple years ago. She said, "Knowledge has entertained me, and it has shaped me, and it has failed me. Something in me still starves. In what is probably the most serious inquiry of my life, I have begun to look past reason, past the provable, in other directions. Now I think there is only one subject worth my attention, and that is the precognition of the spiritual side of the world, and within this recognition, the condition of my own spiritual state." So, if you believe that there's a divine idea for your life, or if you want to, I invite you to repeat with me. There is a divine idea for my life. There is a divine idea for my connections. There is a divine idea for my connections. There is a divine idea for my way of being in the world. There is a divine idea for my way of being in the world. There is a divine idea for my work life. There is a divine idea for my work life. There is a divine idea for my love life. There's a divine idea for my love life. Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. Yes, I'll have what she's having right over there. And the first thing I want you to know, and that's so important to remember about a divine idea, is that it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to something greater than you are. The divine idea for your life belongs to a power greater than you are, and you get to download it. You get to connect with it. You get to articulate it. You get to help bring it forth, but it belongs to something bigger than you are. If April and I were to have a boy, another boy, we would probably be divorced because we just couldn't come up with a name. What would the name be? And yet I knew, we both knew right away that Nancy was the perfect name. Nancy June was the perfect name, and so that's how I knew before we went to the ultrasound room that it was going to be a girl, because it was already in place. And Nancy's named after my grandmother, Nancy. And again, how special this church is for me. I got to do her memorial service right here in this room. I remember afterwards we went to Corey's. You remember Corey's down the street, the seafood place, and everything was wonderful except that we forgot it was belly dancing night, and halfway through some belly dancers come through. But you'd be amazed, the perfect mix of memorial service and belly dancing. So when I die, fill them in, bring them on in. And I'll always remember just a few weeks before my grandmother passed away from cancer, way too young. We were sitting watching TV, getting ready to go get her blood work taken, and there was a story on KCAL 9 News about some miracle baby. And my grandmother wasn't a religious person. For her, the sacred was just being with family and enjoying life. And so this is why her comment took me back so much. She said, "Josh, look at that. Look at that. And tell me there's no God. Look at that and tell me there's no God." And here's this woman who's suffering, who has every reason in the world to not like God, to be angry about her circumstances, having the dignity and the consciousness to honor with awe the miracle of life. "Josh, look at that and tell me there's no God." And I remember going into the ultrasound room to see what this baby was, and seeing my little baby in April's stomach for the first time. And I could just hear, I couldn't hear my grandma's voice, but I could feel it pounding in my heart. "Josh, look at that. Look at that and tell me there's no God." If you want to know what the divine idea is for your life, look to that thing that causes you to pause and not ask the question, do I believe in God, like it's some sort of philosophical exercise, but how can I not stand in witness and awe at the miracle of life? Forget all the names and the defining. As much as they help us explain things, they hold us back just as much from standing in awe of the miracle of life unfolding itself and in you, because you are God's divine idea. You're that important. You're that significant. You're that sacred. But the idea doesn't belong to us alone, and it's ours to catch, download, articulate, and bring into our lives. Once we realize that the divine idea isn't ours alone, that it's bigger than we are, it's then ours to bring it forth into the world. And that's the second thing to remember about giving birth to divine ideas, is you have to be willing to share them with the world. And it was an amazing thing watching April, and I had never thought about this before, that as ready as she was at the end there to give birth, there was also a part of her that was grieving. There was also a part of her that had gotten to know this baby, that it belonged to her and her alone. And they had this unique bond and relationship, and she was holding on. There was a part of her that didn't want to give birth to this new idea because she understood it in that way. And it's an interesting thing to think about, the new divine idea that we want to give birth to in our lives, that sometimes, believe it or not, we want to hold on to it. And we can't give birth to the new idea until we're honest about where we are. You have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to be intimate. You have to be willing to be open. And sometimes you have to be willing to confront those areas of your life that aren't working. If your relationship isn't working the way it needs to, you need to say something. If your work or job sucks, you need to talk to somebody about it. You can't be in denial, because what happens is, for some of us, we project our happiness into some dream far away, not admitting to ourselves how attached we are to being miserable. How much we find our identities in the sad luck story or in the blame of someone else, that if our good were to knock on our door and say, I'm coming in, we wouldn't be ready for our good. We wouldn't be ready for it. And that's why we have to be willing to allow our good to come forth. Nicole put it beautifully in the installation message she gave the other night, that in our teaching, we don't necessarily believe in predestiny. We don't believe in fate, nor do we necessarily believe that everything is free will either. We believe that we co-create our lives with Spirit. There is a power greater than we are that has a divine idea for our lives, and we work together in co-creation of our happiness, our connections, what is most meaningful and valuable to us. It's a partnership. And so we have to be willing to share with one another in order to bring it forward. We can do that knowing that our partner is there, or having a silent partner that's working behind the scenes all along with those heart intentions that we have. I was so honored yesterday to get to do the service for Dorothy Lance. And Dorothy has one of my most favorite life stories in the world. And she would often share with me that when she was a little girl growing up in the Depression, she would sometimes not have enough to eat. And the only book she had as a little girl was the Bible. And she loved reading those Bible stories. She loved reading about Jacob and Daniel and Samson and all these wonderful things going on in Israel and Egypt and all the Holy Lands. And hungry in her belly, she would lay up in the barn on the top floor. It's Dorothy. You're getting some facts of the story wrong, Reverend Josh, and I just want to correct things. So Dorothy, she would. You tell me. I won't tell any more story until she gets to correct it. So don't do that. I remember I bought my mom her first cell phone, and she was very excited to have it. And I called her and I said, "Hi." I said, "Hi, Mom." And she said, "Yes, hello." And I said, "Hi, Mom. How's it going? Is everything okay? Is everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's fine. How are you doing?" She said, "Oh, it's good. I just walked into a movie." So, oh, okay. So that was cell phones. So Dorothy, she would go to bed hungry, but she'd lie in the top of the barn and she'd look up at the sun, and she'd imagine living in these holy lands and being where these adventures happened, and those adventures happening themselves. And Dorothy would grow up to become an incredible woman, a comedian, a clown, a PE teacher, a yoga teacher, have wonderful children, live this incredible life. And then she shared with me one day, I was in my late 60s, and I was walking around in Egypt and in Israel, and I looked up at the sun, and it hit me. It hit me. My whole life, this dream, this vision that I had as a little girl was being created for me even without my knowledge, even without my knowing. Do you have that kind of silent partner in your life? That type of presence? That's the thing with prayers. There's prayers that are answered that day, and there's prayers that take decades. But that creative process never forgets. And if we're willing to stay true to who we are, if we're willing to not hold back on our virtues and express them in our lives, if we're willing to be true to who we know we are to be, not living down on volume level 1 or 2, but living at that 10, that high level, then that co-creativity comes about and manifests itself in our lives in miraculous ways. Right, Nancy June? Yes, it's true. I love something the author Meredith Jordan said. She said, "Whatever you have forgotten, you can remember. Whatever you have buried, you can unearth. If you are willing to look deep into your own nature, if you are willing to peel away the layers of not self you have adopted in making your way through the tribulations of life, you will find that your true self is not as far removed as you think. Your spirit, your God, your power greater than you are, your love is not further away than you might think. It's nearer to you, as the mystics say, as your very breath. In today's language, we say it's closer to you than your cell phone. It is right where you are." The third thing I'd like you to know about giving birth to divine ideas is that you can be ready, but you can't force. You can be ready. It's totally cool, sweetheart. I love having her right there, but you do. Okay, you do your thing. She's the boss. I know where I know. You can be ready, but you can't force. And that happens a lot with people with divine ideas. There are those who are ready, but they want to force. They want to take the butterfly out of the cocoon before it's ready. They want to take the cake out of the oven before it's ready. They want to force, not through love and trust, but with control or fear. And what happens when that happens is that we lose touch with that partner. We stop trusting in the process. We stop showing up, and we crumple ourselves and our lives too soon. Then there are those people who won't force, but they're not ready. They won't force, but they're not ready. They're still so caught up in that story and their identity and what isn't working. They're not willing to step into the new story, the new narrative that will allow this divine idea to come forward for them. And it was so powerful to watch my wife through this labor process. And do get it, I'm a guy giving a talk about labor, I understand. So please forgive me. But on that day where her water broke, I mean, we were trying everything. You know, we walked 2 miles around the street, and she had 1 foot on the curb and 1 foot on the street. We went and had Slurpees. It sounded good. Maybe that'll work. We went and had spicy Indian food and got everything going. And you have to remember, you can be ready, but you can't force. And then that evening, it was about 10 p.m. or so, and we were watching this new Netflix show called Maniac, which was really weird and trippy. So we're all kind of tripped out, and it was good. And all of a sudden, it was like a pop, wasn't it, honey? It was like a pop, and my water broke. And my recollection of the story is that I very calmly got up and got the bags. But April reminds me that Gavin was dawdling, and the quote was something like, "Get in the effing car!" And off we went. But that whole time I could, and again, this is the one who's not giving birth, but I could feel that silent partner present. All we can do is be ready and trust that process and go with that flow that's before us when it comes to bringing forth that divine idea. And April was amazing. It's the dumbest thing in the world for a guy to say that it was an easy labor. It was a fast labor. And I remember she was having a contraction, and she said, "Josh, you have to tell me when I'm having a contraction that it's going to be over soon and everything's going to be okay." And so a couple contractions later, "Sweetheart, it's going to be over soon and everything is going to be okay. Can you just be quiet and let me be?" And before you knew it, I got to see Nancy June's head and the birth of this incredible baby girl. It's amazing when the divine idea for your life comes forth. And I remember getting that first kind of moment alone with her. And she looked into my eyes, and I looked into hers, and you were seeing something brand new, but oh so familiar. And in the eyes of the beloved, you see the eyes not only of the uniqueness of the individual, but of everyone you've ever loved, everyone you ever will. And again, that pounding. Josh, look at that. Look at that. How can you look at that and tell me there's no God? How can you look at your life and tell yourself that there's no God? How can you look at your life and not realize the miracle of life giving itself in so many ways? For all the crap of it, all the nonsense of it, I get it. I get it, I get it, I get it. But look at your life and allow it to look back at you and know that what it sees in you as well is something oh so familiar and primordial, oh so beautiful and brand new. But not only are you giving birth to the divine ideas of life, but you are the divine idea, my friends. And the divine is giving birth to you. Allow yourself and allow it to move through you freely without any inhibition whatsoever. Dare to be the strength and the power and the presence of who you are, and trust that silent partner to bring everything else into line. So with joy and with love, and inviting Lindsay and Tina to come up, and they're going to sing a song about looking into someone's eyes, and I invite you to think about who and what that is for you, and just invite you to join me if you so choose in taking a deep breath. Just recognizing that the sacred is right where we are. Let us be called to give eyes to the sacred, to give heart to the sacred, to give cries to the sacred, to give our whole being to the sacred. And as we do, let us trust that the sacred gives itself to us in the most miraculous ways. It calls us to let go over and over and over and over and over again. But let us remember that letting go is only into a deeper degree of its splendor, of its miracle, of its magnificence. Your life, my friends, I'm not bullshitting you, is the greatest story ever told, the deepest narrative ever come forward. It is the connection of all our hearts together, weaving this beautiful tapestry of one life and one being. May we live in that gratitude and allow it to unfold. And so it is.